Regular city council meeting for July 12th. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Here.
Councilmember Perkins,
Here.
Councilmember Zafar,
Here.
Vice Mayor Barros,
Here.
Mayor Hudson.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
There are none this evening.
Item 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk over there. If you are participating remotely, click the raise your hand button on your computer or star 9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on that agenda item. Item 3.3, boards, committee, and commission meetings. Complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city's website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription service is available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Contact the city clerk with questions at 925-973-2539. Public comment is open at this time. You are permitted to address the city council on items that are on the consent calendar. That's 5.1 through 5.9, a request for a future agenda item, a special presentation, which we have tonight. If you wish to speak under section 6, please do it under public comment, and also on items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any cards to speak tonight?
We do have 2 public comment cards.
Oh, good. Call them up.
Nisarg Moody.
Please come on up. Take 3 minutes.
Just
Wait a minute. She'll help you.
turn on the microphone.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nisarg Modi. I'm representing here my friends and colleagues within Ambridge community. And first of all, I really wanted to appreciate the platform and the opportunity you all provide for public comments. We haven't been here many times, which means you guys are doing a great job, and really appreciate all of the efforts to run the city. Today, I'm here to express our significant concerns on the decision that was shared with us through a notice where on the Watermill Road, there are a lot of trees that actually beautifies the entire street. And I personally feel, and a lot of my friends here feel the same way, which is that's the image of San Ramon. It's green. There are a lot of green pastures, reserved areas. And when we saw this notice, that a lot of these trees are being cut down without giving us a good understanding of what is the reason. And none of us actually complained about any specific problems that we see around those tree areas. We were really saddened. And as a community, we came together and discussed what are some of the concerns we would have. And I wanted to highlight some of them. One, we see that area and that street, and for that matter, the entire San Ramon, as we see, is being used by a lot of the citizens, senior citizens walking along the streets to avoid heat. We
Keep going. We hit the 1 minute instead of 3 minute. So keep going. We'll let you know unofficially with a hammer or something. Go ahead.
We also see that there are a lot of dog walkers these days using the streets. So we were really saddened by such a decision to blanket cut off all these trees, where we haven't seen or heard from any of our fellow community members that there are any areas or problem areas within that entire street, as well as all the connected streets to Watermill. So today we wanted to request you to consider 3 things before you have this decision. One, we have requested a moratorium, and we really appreciate the city management and especially park leadership to consider to remove that notice right away. Really appreciate that. But I think this requires a significant thought process to cut down so many trees. We all hear a lot of news that wildfires are burning trees, and here we are trying to cut down the trees that are super healthy, which actually provides a lot of benefits to the entire community, especially for entire San Ramon. And also we feel that I own a business in Dublin, and when I had to remove 2 trees, those were at least $20,000 to $40,000 to remove each tree. There is a significant expense that is associated with that. That is definitely above my pay grade to tell you about the expenses. But we personally feel that instead of having that blanket decision, that would impact the entire street and for that matter, entire San Ramon. We would like to consider an approach which is very data-driven and see if there are any specific problem areas that you find surrounding specific trees and then make the prudent decision. And we feel that as a citizen, we'll be open for that. If there is an infrastructure damage, if you see any significant concerns. But what we are requesting here is to have a criteria. That criteria should define why a specific tree needs to be removed. We understand, as I mentioned, because of fire, we are losing a lot of trees. And as a city, which brand image is around green pastures, I really request you to come up with the specific criteria.
Okay.
Put a moratorium for
We got to
as
cut
long
you
as
off there,
can.
though.
So thank
But
you
we
very
got the
much.
picture. Thank you
you.
very
Appreciate
much. Next,
Thanks.
Walker Tippett.
Walker.
Hello, council.
Yes.
Good. As you know, I am motivated in this effort to establish San Ramon as a sanctuary city for the unborn by Christ. First, because he is Lord over all things. He determines what is right and wrong, what is good and evil. But also because the gospel has unique implications concerning abortion. The Bible teaches that Jesus Christ is both God and man in perfect union. The Apostle John explains, the word of God became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. God didn't just create us, although that alone would be proof that all people have value, but he even descended into his own creation and lived alongside sinful humanity. The Apostle Paul says, though Christ was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. Jesus, therefore, experienced everything we do. He got hungry. He felt fatigue. He got sick. When his followers abandoned him, he was lonely. Upon his death, he felt fear and sorrow. There is no human condition that Christ has not personally known. When did this humanity begin for Jesus? At conception, just like it did for all of us. God told Mary, his mother, behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus. He will be great and will be called Son of the Most High. The arrival of Christ is the consummation of every verse in the Bible that affirms the dignity of all human life. Like when King David said, for you, God, did form my inward parts. You did knit me together in my mother's womb. When eternal God took on human flesh, just like ours, he declared the intrinsic worth of all people made in his image, regardless of anatomy or developmental status. But why did God send his only son in this way? The Apostle Paul makes it simple. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners. God sent his son to live the sinless life, the life of perfect love that you and I have not. To be the only innocent man, to die a criminal's death on our behalf, to redeem us by grace from the curse of the law, which every single one of us has broken, to reconcile us back to God with his own sacrifice, and to give us eternal life with him. For God so loved the world that he sent his only son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Every life matters to Christ. Choose life. Put a stop to murder in our city. Protect the unborn in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thank you, Walker. Any star 9 or raised hands?
That was the last comment card, and we do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Go ahead.
Call in user 1.
You have the floor.
Hi, I would like to actually speak to 3.2, which wasn't given an opportunity for public comment. It is an agenda item. I would like to speak with 3.2, reserving another opportunity to speak on 4.
Go
Hi,
ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello.
Hi, did you say okay for me to speak on 3.2 and 4?
Go ahead and speak on 3.2.
Sorry, say that again?
go ahead and speak on 3.2.
Thank you. So I feel very bullied at the last council meeting as I raised my hand for items 11, 13, and 14, and I wasn't called. So I had asked the city to please give me an explanation, and I ended up getting a bully letter from the attorney saying that, my speech was inappropriate and this and that. But then I have told the city repeatedly, I don't have any email. So he ended up sending his letter to other people's emails, harassing other Asian girls in town. I would like to ask you guys to please don't do that. If you need to tell me anything, you're welcome to tell me at any public meetings that I come on, and you can tell me. So please don't bully me just because you can. Thank you. May I proceed to 4?
Go ahead.
So for item number 4, I want to talk about violence. I am very, very sad and angry with the sequential violent acts that started in the United States of America. First, at a church in Southern California that killed a Taiwanese doctor. Then after that, it was in New York City, it was in Chicago, it was everywhere, and now even in Japan. I am so sad that the late Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Abe Shinzo, had passed away by an assassin who bore a lot of resentment that really has nothing to do with Mr. Abe. So I contemplated and I reflected within what kind of people can become violent. And I have categorized them in the following 3 categories. 1, someone who never owned up to their own faults. Every fault is other people's. Then there are people who cannot deal with other people who disagree with them. They must use violence to show that their opinion is better than the others. And then 3, it's the good old politicians. Because without violence, illegitimate politicians and inferior politicians cannot possibly act and be qualified as our gods with a small case. I encourage the attorney to please stop acting as my God, telling me what to say. You don't control my speech. And I ask the city executive clerk to please, if you feel that I am disagreeing with you and that you can take it, that you can just use words to try to convince me, or better yet, have signs. I'm a reasonable person and I read. And lastly, for all those people who think that your failure belongs to other people, please open your eyes and do not accuse other people who had never done your ancestors any wrong, nor any wrong to you in present tense, and then make us pay until we pass away. Thank you.
Thank you. Any written comments?
We did not receive any written comments on this item.
Okay, we'll close the public comment. And while we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing these items that are not on this meeting's agenda. We take them seriously, and staff will follow up with you on these items if appropriate. Okay, consent calendar items. There are 5.1 through 5.9. Consent calendar items are considered routine, acted upon with a single action by the city council. I have to keep looking at the top now because you guys are faster than me. Anyone want to pull an item? 5.1 through 5.9, Mark?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from item 5.4. I'm a member of Brave Church and need to recuse myself from that.
We don't have to pull that, do we, Mark, for that? We can do it 5.1, 5.9 with that written in.
No, you can go forward with the vote on the consent calendar. Councilmember Armstrong does not have to leave the dais
Okay.
and can sit through the vote. And then the record will just reflect that it's a 4-0 vote instead of a 5-0 vote.
Okay, I see you're fighting 5.1 through 5.9. Nobody else wants to pull anything. We're good. We have mover. We got you. You're Perkins first, Burrows second. I mean, this is the fastest council in the West. We have 4 of 5. Mark, you can go ahead and say yes. We have yours as a recusal. And we are good. Yes, that ends the vote. So we have 5 out of 5, and there is one abstaining from item 4. Moving on to the highlight of the evening, where we put Adam Chow on the spot. We have a proclamation declaring July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month. Ooh, presentation by me. I better get up. Yeah. You guys gotta cheat these guys. You can't dress up better than I'm here. Okay, I have a proclamation of the city council of the city of Townhome declaring July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better. Whereas this proclamation recognizes the importance of access to local parks, recreation, trails, open space and facilities for the positive development for all Townhome residents. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activities. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports the economic vitality of the community by partnering with local business and nonprofits and offering events for residents' engagement. And whereas Parks and Recreation creates memorable experiences through youth sports and enrichment activities, teen centers and programs, senior activity centers, adult fitness, and enrichment programs, free community events, and beyond. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports human development and endless learning opportunities that foster social, intellectual, physical, emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. And whereas Parks and Recreation strengthens community identity by providing facilities and services that reflect and celebrate community character, heritage, culture, history, aesthetics, and landscape. And whereas Parks and Recreation facilitates community problem and issue resolution by providing safe space to come together peacefully and serving as key points of service, helping our communities heal both physically and emotionally. And whereas Parks and Recreation sustains and stewards our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parklands. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in their recreational opportunities. And whereas Parks and Recreation remains versatile and innovative in providing vital services to communities through local, national, or global emergencies, all while adhering to guidelines set forth by governing agencies. And whereas the California Park and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon recognizes the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, and facilities for health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all our residents. It hereby proclaims the month of July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month. Congratulations, Adam, you did it all yourself. Yeah. Hang on. Team, maybe Chris is there. Please, Adam, tell us a little bit about Parks. We're going to turn you loose like that.
Well, Parks Make Life Better is really a theme that we follow in San Ramon. We have a.
Got to get on the speech or the microphone.
Is that better? Yeah. Fabulous. Well, Parks Make Life Better really is the key for San Ramon. Our Parks Community Service Department and our Public Works Department work really well together to make sure that our parks, trails, open space, everything looks really nice, facilities for our residents to be able to use on a regular basis. Our Parks Community Services Department also, as we talked about, has a number of different programs and offerings for the little ones all the way to the older ones, and the older ones as any age that can be able to enjoy our services. So we really appreciate the proclamation. Our residents know that parks do make life better, and we're proud to be able to represent that today. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Comments, Scott? Sabina? Mark?
I
would
just want to say thank you for, I think parks are our crown jewels here in San Ramon, and we're so proud of it and really appreciate and thank the Parks and Community Services for taking such good care of the parks. They're beautiful. So thank you.
And the programming. I'm absolutely shocked sometimes at what I see you guys come up with and still keep them together. I mean, even outside of what the city does, I still remember 2014, the program we were running, and not so much through the city, but over at San Ramon Golf, went back to Georgia and won the national championship. I mean, it's, when you think back of what we were doing back in the 80s to what we're doing now, it's pretty remarkable. Thank you, Adam, and the whole crew. I mean, you deserve nothing but recommendation, and you're going to get it right now, Kathy, because we're going to bring you up for the dog initiative. Thank you, Adam. And right now we'll go on to 10 point. There's no 8, there's no 9, there's no unfinished business, no city council appointments. So let's move on to new business, which is the dog park initiative update presentation by Kathy Hyman, Parks and Community Service Director.
Good evening, Mayor Hudson and City Council. I have to bounce back quickly because the Parks Make Life Better initiative is not only Parks and Community Services, it is Public Works and Public Services, because it is a total team affair to make all the programs and the parks come together to make San Ramon what it is. So thank you so much for your kind words. But I am here to talk about dogs. So let me click in here to this PowerPoint presentation.
Friend of mine asked, when are we going to have a cat park?
All right, it's a
That
total
is not
segue.
on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kath.
I'm sorry.
It's a total segue, but we can talk about cats another day. So I wanted to give you a little background of where we're at and what's been going on with dog parks, since I know this is kind of a hot topic in the community and we're pretty happy and excited about some of the things we've accomplished. So just to kind of get you to where we are, I think, as you know, the Parks, Trails, Open Space and Recreation Master Plan identified that we have an adequate number and distribution of dog parks, but that the current parks need improvement. And so you can see on the slide, that little map, the purple dots represent where our 4 existing dog parks are. That's from the master plan. Now, the only thing that really changed since we did that great master plan is that dog ownership increased significantly during the pandemic. I think everyone knows that. You can see it just in the parks. And at that point, we started receiving feedback from dog owners that we really needed to look at increasing the number and the quality of dog parks in San Ramon. Interestingly, we were also receiving a large amount of feedback from non-dog owners regarding issues with off-leash dogs in all of the parks. And so the Parks and Community Services Department decided to launch a dog park initiative team. So we took some of our staff and said, okay, we're going to give you a little project to explore this topic and develop some recommendations for the Parks Commission, which they did. But in order to really kind of dive into the topic, they did a dog park survey. And the dog park survey was conducted last November to December. The survey was advertised via social media, email blasts sent through Gov Delivery. We sent it out to the 27,000 Parks and Recreation News subscribers. And we even did additional signage at all of the dog parks with a QR code. So you could take your phone and just click through straight to the survey. We even put the little signs with the QR code at the local veterinarians and like pet stores and those kinds of things to try and get a good turnout. And we did. So we received 1,124 responses from both dog owners and some non-dog owners as well.
How many dogs responded?
You know, it's not clear. We should have given that a piece of the puzzle and we had them click through. In any case, I'm not going to go through all the survey findings, but I did want to highlight a couple of the really important ones because they are what kind of drove the recommendations. So the concerns about the current dog park surfaces of tan bark and decomposed granite was really huge on the survey, and there's a significant preference for grass. And so that top little graph, you can see 62% of the respondents preferred grass. Now, interesting, although the many people who prefer grass, that wasn't everyone. So even at that, almost 18% preferred the decomposed granite that we have at a couple of our parks, and even 11% liked the tan bark that we have at one of our dog parks. So there is a little movement in there, but by and large, everyone really wants a grass dog park, and that's not something that we have. There was a desire for additional dog parks in neighborhood parks. There was interest in more shade and some dog play features, you know, those fun little tunnels and activities that you can do with your dog. There were concerns about off-leash dogs in city parks and aggressive dogs in the dog parks themselves. So that was an interesting comment because the aggressive dog comment came from both sides, dog owners and non-dog owners, because within the dog parks themselves, we were getting complaints that there are aggressive dogs in here and you need to do something about it. And then on the outside with the loose dogs, we're getting complaints. There's aggressive dogs, you need to do something about it. So, and then finally, in the survey findings, there was a need for new updated signage at the dog parks to help identify dog park etiquette and then really to educate those dog owners. And that last graph on the bottom, you can see kind of goes across all the issues that you would expect with, 43% didn't have a concern about dog parks, 48% were concerned about aggressive dogs, and then barking, odor, parking, et cetera, were the many other comments. So the key recommendations that came out of that survey and the analysis done by our staff on the national trends, looking at other dog parks, looking across the country at what could be done, was to create a capital improvement project, a CIP, to improve our 4 existing dog parks with people and dog-friendly amenities. And you know that as that went through the budget process. So that's been done. We wanted to create a dog park section of the City of San Ramon website. And that's specifically when you went to it before, you had to kind of dig pretty far down to figure out where the dog parks were located. So you had to go to parks and you had to dig into the parks or the grid and look down this little line to see where are the dog parks. So now we have a separate page. And when you go there, you can see tiles, and I'll show you in a minute, of all the dog parks, their features, along with lots of other great tidbits. We wanted to launch a social media campaign aimed at educating our new dog owners, research options to create additional dog parks at other existing park locations, improve the bark and ride by converting it to grass, and then developing some enhanced signage at all of our dog parks for consistency. This is a tongue twister. So the dog park website, I hope you'll get a chance to go and kind of click your way through it, but just in short, we have a custom URL, and the new website has all of the San Ramon dog park locations called out with pictures and their attributes. We have a page of dog park rules. We have safety tips to educate, again, those new dog owners that might not know all those things that you need to know about having a dog and being in a dog park. We've listed some resources as well as links to our other city parks, and then of course a contact page so that the public who are interested in dog parks or want to give us feedback on the park have an easy way to get to both Parks and Community Services, the police department if it's an emergency, and our Public Works department. So the social media campaign, that's really exciting. This social media campaign was launched on June 30th. Hopefully you saw on the marquee on the bottom graphic, be a good neighbor, keep your dog on a leash. That's our effort to try and remind our dog owners that when they're not in a dog park, the dog should be on a leash. We've launched our social media campaign on Facebook, Nextdoor, and Instagram, alerting the community to the development of the webpage and the resources. We're encouraging people to use hashtag #SRHeartsDogs as they post pictures of their dogs. We've got bi-weekly and monthly posts to highlight dog parks and include safety tips and fun dog facts, all to try and engage the community in a conversation about dogs. And we are featured in the San Ramon event and update email, and of course included in the city news update. So the social media and outreach campaign is going to go on over time. So that's not one and done. We're going to keep this moving. So here are a couple of quick images of some of the social media that went out, talking about the new webpage and also focusing on the Tassajara Ridge Staging Area Dog Park. And then finally, we are looking to update the dog park signs. I'm not sure how many of you are dog owners, but at the current time, the dog park sign is as you come up and enter the dog park. And if anyone has ever tried to walk a dog into a dog park when there are other dogs in the dog park, nobody's stopping to read the sign. So at this point, we're suggesting that we put signs both inside the dog park and on the outside so that once the dog and owner are in the park, they can actually engage with those signs. And we're looking at trying to make them maybe a little less dense with text and give them a QR code so they can pop over to the website and see some updates. And that really concludes my little update on what we're doing with the dog park initiative team. And we're excited about working on the dog parks and continuing to see them improve and flourish. Do you have any questions?
Any clarifying questions before I open public comments? Scott?
Yeah,
And then Sabina.
we went through the whole budget process. Do we have any plans to do anything other than signage this fiscal year?
I believe we do have that CIP funded, but it's pending the developer fees
Okay.
coming in. So I think the projects will be in partnership with public services as soon as the funds are there. And, I think the ideal would be to be able to put the grass in the bark and ride, but I think just we'll have to wait and see.
Sure. Thanks.
Sabina.
So I just had a question about the grass rollout. What would that look like in the different dog parks?
Well, again, public services is best to speak to it, but I can tell you what I know, which is that the bark and ride is the easiest and the quickest and the most efficient because there is existing water that we can tap into to put grass in that park. The other ones do not have that same current situation, so it would be a more complex and more expensive proposition. And I also have to point out that although there's a vast majority that preferred grass, there were those that do prefer the decompressed granite or the tan bark surfaces. And if you think about it, like a kind of a seasonal year-round situation, in the winter, very heavy rain months, the grass dog park will be closed like a sports field because the turf will be destroyed by dogs running on it. Not to mention it gets very muddy. And I know I have a dog. They come back with absolutely green paws if you take them on grass when it's wet. So during some of those winter months, the granite is a much better surface than potentially the grass, but there's personal preference in what people like. So ideally, it would be nice to have different kinds of surfaces in our dog parks and have a variety of options for people to use.
I know in Danville and in Dublin, they close their grass dog parks during the wet season. As soon as the rain starts, they close those.
And that's correct. And so there are a lot of different schools of thought on how best to manage that turf. I don't think we're quite there yet to answer every one of those questions.
I'd imagine there might be alternates to, the world has dogs, so perhaps there's other things we could put in there that don't take as much water, but.
We could save the comments till after we do public comment. Any questions further before I go to Member Armstrong? None? Go ahead.
Thank you, Kathy. On the signage issue, does the signage program includes updated signage for the school parks? Not just the dog parks, but for proper rules and behavior, and dogs must be on a leash at our school parks and other parks other than the dog parks.
This particular CIP and all of these pieces were aimed at the dog parks very specifically, but that's great feedback. And I think we have put many of our parks have the dogs on leash signs, but I don't know if all the school parks do. We can definitely look into it.
Yeah, thank you. Because that is a big concern that I hear from residents is they're scared. Some of them are scared to go to some of the regular parks that we have because they see dog owners with their dogs off leash and they just don't feel comfortable using that park. And so I think it's important somehow to get that kind of an education campaign going or enforcement and signage and public education. Thank you.
Sridhar, you have anything for open public?
Yeah. So first of all, I received 3 comments from the community. First thing is they are very happy and they love the idea of hashtag SR Hearts. SR Hearts dog. Thanks for that. And 2 questions I received. One question is, okay, so we do have a plan for current park and ride to convert into a grass one, but do we have any temporary available park that they can use while we are still working on this one? Any other park that they can use? That's one question. The second question they asked is about, do we have any plans to add any additional parks for the dog parks? So those are the 2 questions they asked.
Yeah. We investigated the option to have a unfenced dog park, i.e. you take an existing park and you label a period of time that says, okay, from 10 until noon, dogs will be allowed off leash in this unfenced area. Because as to your point, thinking that perhaps we could increase it, but we didn't find a lot of support for those concepts. And the flip side of the park user not being able to use the park because of fear of the dogs that are off leash. So the challenge is, of course, fencing. And so in order to create another space, we would need to add more fencing, which is something we're definitely looking at, and we have considered at both the sports park and at Monarch Park. And so that's something that staff will still be continuing to look at and bringing forward to the Parks Commission probably later this year.
Thanks, Kadesh. So just to make sure I understand, for that's Monarch Park and Tiffany Roberts, next to the Tiffany Roberts Sports Park, San Ramon Sports Park. So that space is, we are looking for future additional parks, right?
Yeah, so we have our 4 existing dog parks, and the Parks Commission really felt that it was best to focus on the Parks Commission goal of balancing quality and quantity, and to repair and fix the existing 4 parks first before we embarked on adding new parks. However, staff is pursuing research into what other new parks could be added in what locations. It is a little more complicated if you try and take an existing neighborhood park and put a dog park in it, because if you have a dog, you think it's a great idea. If you don't have a dog, then you probably aren't thrilled with the idea, because if it's too close to your house or a line of sight. So it's a little tricky to find the exact right space, but that is something we're pursuing.
Okay, so that's long. For short term, while we are still working on this bark and ride, bringing grass on that one, is there any possibility for the residents to use any park until that park is done for their dogs?
Off leash?
Off leash, or yeah, pretty much like any.
There really isn't an easy solution to that. And I mean, as what you're talking about is putting up temporary fencing.
Temporary fencing, or is there any park that we can say that, okay, you can use this park for until we fix this bark and ride park? So that's a question
we
they
will
asked.
definitely
So
look into it and see if there's something we can come up with.
sounds good. Thanks. Those
Okay.
are my.
Public comment is open. Do we have any cards?
We do not have any speaker cards, but I do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Please.
Calling user 1.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to give some ideas, if I may, drawing from my experiences in the past as a student of a psychology class, as a former teacher, and as a travel sport mom in the past. Number 1, is it possible to sort of survey the dog's personality and possibly give them some sort of, how birds flock together with like feathers? So maybe once we take personality survey of the dogs, we can create defenseman dogs, stay or time, or VIP dogs, stay or time. Beauty is skin deep dog, stay or time, and then Miss and Mr. dogs. And so that there will be less likely friction between the dogs because they are more similar to each other's looks and personality and sizes. Secondly, I'm wondering if it's possible to create a little timeout area drawing from the Pavlov's dog theory. When you ring the bell and then you let the dog see food, the dog will salivate. So if the dog is misbehaving, then maybe we can have a little like timeout area. Then eventually the dog will learn that if, he is not being friendly, then that's where he goes. Eventually he will self-eliminate undesirable behavior. And then lastly, I think every owners have their preferences. I don't have any dogs, but I think Ms. Hyman is a very sharp personality. So if she says so, and she have different ideas of flooring, then she should try them all, and then just allow maybe like rotation. So, everyone gets to either try out different floorings or, stick with the area that they prefer. So those are my some, ideas that thank you for indulging me.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any written comments?
We do not have any written comments.
Okay,
on this
public
item.
comment is closed. The matters before the council, no action will be required. I just had a couple of comments if I could start us off, and that is, I know with East Bay Regional Park District, we have an ordinance that if your dog bites another person or even another dog, you have either 30 minutes or an hour to report it, or it's a misdemeanor. Do we have anything like that? Because that was the undercurrent of what I kind of heard from up here. From day one, when we did this in 2001, people wanted a small dog park because a big dog park, one big dog killed one of our small dogs. Yeah, well, figures and Dan, no, I didn't say that out loud. Yes. The big thing to me is, I don't know if we can do a whole lot there, Kathy. I mean, if there isn't water, the first dog park was Del Mar, and I'm trying to remember, I think that's one of the options where they probably won't want water unless we went to well water, and still it's the maintenance afterwards that I'm more concerned about. You have to keep doing this. I mean, to keep it up, and somebody's going to have to be there, wash it off if they're not picking up as it has to. But in your signs, does it have anything? You have to report this if the dog is bitten or a person is bitten?
The current signage doesn't spell it out in quite that level of detail, and that's something we're working on, is on the verbiage.
Yeah.
It does list all of our ordinance in regards to dogs, and I'd have to defer probably to the police department in regards to enforcement, but something we can look at.
Yeah, it was 38 or 18. It had an 8 in it from the East Bay Regional Park District, but county must have had something on it too. But that to me is the thing I'd be concerned about as we start doing these, is the maintenance going forward. It could get pretty expensive, and what we do when people have these complaints about a dog biting another dog or another person. Any other comments? We'll start down on your side, Mark, this time, and then we'll move on down to Sabina.
Yeah, again, thank you, Kathy, for this program, this initiative. I've actually been to the dog park website. It's a great start. I love that. I'm a dog park user. I use the Del Mar Dog Park, and I found that it's not just a social activity for the dogs, but it's a social activity for the dog owners as well. So there's certainly value in having a good dog park program. I mentioned my comment about the non-dog owners and their concern about off leash and some of the other parks. But just in general, I'd like to say, thank you for putting out the survey. Thank you for the efforts on signage. Thank you for all the public education, and just making dog parks a vital, vibrant part of our park fabric. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor, any additional?
I want to say thanks. Thanks for staying on top of this. I know you have a lot of other stuff going on, but I know since the day one when we started this effort, the community is very happy that you are not only just working on it, but you're providing regular updates to them. So thank you very much.
Both stated. Scott, anything? Sabina?
Just had one suggestion about the signage. I think if we do more graphics and icons, people would probably pay a little bit more attention instead of reading. So yeah, if that's possible, that, we live in a world where we consume a lot more images now than we do words. So
Like
I think that would be
emojis.
good.
Add some emojis.
And as a final word, please note, nobody asked for a joint cat dog park, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, thanks again, Kathy. Oh, let's put Lauren on
I
this.
have one more ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Can San Ramon heart cats as well?
No, no, and it can't be
There are
done.
lots of cat cafes now. That's a trend.
Just remember, I'm not the one going out there at 4 a.m. when they want something. All right, Planning Commission year in review and project updates. And this is a presentation by Lauren Barr. Lauren, you have the floor.
All right. Give me a second to bring it up here.
We could put it all in Aspen Wood, but.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council members. It's my pleasure to present the Planning Commission year in review, as well as some project updates. This is a presentation that went to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and we've brought it here tonight, so you can all participate as well. So the first project we wanted to mention is the Ttlc Townhome project. That was the city's first SB 330 project. It's at 500 Deerwood, and it's 57 for sale townhomes with a 15% affordable requirement. There was certain concessions related to density bonus, but the Planning Commission approved it in 2021, September. One thing I want to mention also is we're seeing individual slides here. Many of these projects had multiple hearings in front of the Planning Commission, as well in some cases the City Council. It's True Life Companies. There's another T in there. Excuse me?
Have they pulled any permits?
We'll get to
Any
that
progress,
in a
or are
little
they
bit.
just?
There's another section we'll talk about.
Okay.
So I don't want to get ahead of myself.
All right.
Then we also had a land use permit at City Center for Sandbox VR. As you may recall, that was approved by the Planning Commission and came to the council on appeal, which the council upheld the approvals, and that was October of 2021. Of course, we have the City Village at Bishop Ranch 6, 404 units, and an amendment to the North Camino Ramon specific plan. It was ultimately approved by the Planning Commission in November of 2021. As you're aware, this also came before the City Council for the entitlements and changes to the North Camino Ramon specific plan. We did a series of concept reviews over the year as well. 2481 Deerwood Drive. This was a concept review for a townhome project on approximately 4.4 acres. It involves the demolition of an existing office building and then construction of townhomes, 15% affordable component as well. The Planning Commission provided some feedback on this particular project, and we'll talk about it a little bit later as they've moved on with formal applications. We also did a concept review for a townhome project on Morgan's Masonry site. Again, this was approximately 72 unit townhome development. It had some live work units as part of it, and the Planning Commission provided some comments there. In this particular case, some of the comments related to the need for a higher density project and something that was a little bit more in line with the specific plan adopted for the area.
So quick question, what does a live work unit look like?
It can be similar to like an ADU where they have a spot that can be a commercial use, an office, home office. You could do real estate, accounting, something like that. We have a couple of properties in the city that are essentially pre-approved for home-based businesses. So again, it's one way of technically addressing the mixed use component by providing commercial component. We also did an entitlement review for the Belmont Village Senior Care Facility. This is part of the City Walk Master Plan, and this was 177 units. It's a 6-story building, and it's located on the site of the BR1A portion of the City Walk Master Plan, and the commission approved this in November of 2021.
Sorry, so I did have a question around this because somebody asked me, is this a care or is it also independent senior living?
It has a full spectrum of care. So there's some independent as well as memory care. And so it again, there's different components, different programs that they'll have. We also did a proposal, another SB 330 application for Windflower Townhomes. This is the Golden Skate site. This was in the San Ramon Village specific plan as well. And this was approved in December of 2021. In this case, they used the junior accessory dwelling units to serve as the below market rate units. We had a townhome concept review on the Rome property, which is the former Outpost property. And they were looking at a different scenario as opposed to the already approved apartment project on that site. And so they received some feedback from the commission. And once again, it didn't really fall in line with the density and the vision for the specific plan area. As you'll recall, we also processed through the walking district, did some outreach and engagement, working with the Parks and Community Service people and Parks Commission. Planning Commission did a review and recommended it to City Council in February of 2022. We did a concept review for a second site over at the BR1A property. This was an apartment project, 406 multifamily units right on the edge of Bollinger Canyon Road, 7 stories, 85 feet tall. It had a central parking garage concept with the units around the outside, so the parking structure is not visible from the surrounding area. And then, of course, it meets the affordability requirements of the master plan. And the commission provided some feedback on that one. As you're aware, we do a general plan annual report every year. It also goes to council. So you saw that during the spring of this year. We also did a concept review related to Hampton Inn. They were looking at some revisions to their already approved plans related to a parking structure, changing it to surface parking and subterranean parking. We provided them comments back from the commission, and they haven't decided whether to proceed with the current plan or submit for revisions at this point. As you're all aware, we also initiated the general plan update. We've done a significant amount of hearings with both with the Planning Commission, City Council, ad hoc committees, done a lot of outreach, public engagement, farmers markets, various different forums to get the word out and solicit feedback, stakeholder interviews as well. And we continue that process through the end of the year. We did a time extension for the Chang residential development. This is a portion of the Northwest Specific Plan next to Bollinger Canyon Road. At the time, annexation was approved, but subject to some easements. And so the Chang development got an extension through LAFCO, but they also needed an extension through the city. And so we went ahead and processed that. And that was in May of this year. We also processed some map revisions to the city village specific plan. This had to do with the type of ownership, condominium versus simple lot, and some processing requirements for water service and the like. And that was approved in May of 2022. We also had multiple hearings and discussions regarding the El Nido Assisted Living Project. It's the 84-bed residential care facility. And the integration of the El Nido historic property into the project. That was approved by the Planning Commission in May of 2022. Primrose Daycare Center. This was a retrofit of the old Chevy's site on Bollinger Canyon Road. And this was approved by the Planning Commission in May of 2022. As I mentioned before, we had done the concept review for the 2481 Deerwood Drive townhomes. They did file formal applications that include a general plan amendment rezone. We had the first hearing with the Planning Commission in May of this year. And so we also will be moving this forward to the City Council as it requires legislative updates to both the zoning code as well as the general plan. So we're in the process of doing environmental review as well as architectural review, and we'll be moving it forward in hearings later this year.
Aren't we limited in the number of general plan updates we can do in a year?
Yes.
Okay, is that a 12-month rolling 12 months, or is it a calendar year? Is it a fiscal year?
You know, I've never been clear on whether it's a rolling, I think it's a calendar year, but I don't know if the city attorney or the calendar year. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, we have capacity at this point.
Okay.
So,
Just didn't want to run into something that.
Yeah, we keep track, and in
blows
some
up.
cases, we'll group general plan amendments in order to deal with that particular issue.
Mhm.
We also did a concept review for the Morgan's Masonry site. This was Anton Developments. They filed a concept review for a 162 unit project. This is an all affordable workforce housing project. It's 4 and 5 story buildings surrounding a parking garage. And so the commission provided some comments, and they're currently considering the next steps related to that particular project. Okay, so projects that are currently under review that are working their way through the process right now. City Walk, the Bishop Ranch 1A apartments. They have, based on the concept review comments, they filed formal development applications. The size of the project got slightly smaller. Rather than the 406, it's 381 units, slightly smaller parking structure, same maximum height, maximum story structure is 7. And then there's still a central parking garage with a wrap and rooftop amenities. That went to the architectural review earlier this month, and we're continuing to work through the application process.
So a couple of questions there. Why did it decrease?
Sorry,
The number of units, was there a reason or?
it was just part of their engineering of the site, what it would accommodate. They've also, this particular project has a mix of everything from studio to 3-bedroom. So what happens is they sometimes shift around the unit counts to meet the needs. It also has to do with the number of parking spaces being provided, the cost of the structured parking, and just again, cost benefit and working out the economics of it.
So the other question is some of the amenities that they were going to release for parks and, trails and things like that were the number of units that they will roll out. So would this impact that?
The number of units still exists within the master plan as a whole,
Okay.
so they can be carried over to a different project. And again, it just has to do with the actual yield.
Yeah,
that's
no. So
available.
my question was if they don't build those, for example, I don't remember the exact number, but we said at unit number 600 and something, they'll do the lake, and then at unit number.
Right.
So would
right.
that get impacted?
It did not, because this didn't get up to threshold yet. So it will be the next project that will likely trigger all those requirements in terms of payment of fees and park impacts and the like.
Yeah, no, that was my question.
Yeah.
So that this might hold us back a little bit because we're 100 short and.
No, because they tend to come in clusters of 300 to 400 at a time. I want to say the threshold was somewhere around 700. And so this got more than halfway there. The next one will probably be the same and get us over the top. So we also have another SB 330 application for Iron Horse Village. This is at the corner of Crow Canyon Road and El Costa, the former PG&E Neuron building next to the post office. They have not filed their formal applications yet. They did get a concept review with the Architectural Review Board just to look at their architecture, even though it wasn't required. They wanted some early feedback. So we anticipate they'll file their formal applications in the next few months. Then, as you're all aware, there's another SB 330 application at Marketplace. You might recall the original concept was an apartment building and has since been revised to a 40-unit small lot, a residential project, similar in scale to townhomes, but they're actually standalone parcels. And this is in the process. The application's technically incomplete at this point, so we're waiting on additional studies before it can move forward. Okay, so then there's projects that are approved and under construction. As you're aware, City Village, BR6, they've demolished all the buildings and are working on grading activities now. Substantial change over the course of a few weeks. We also have the EOC building at 2401. I need to also mention that, this is tied in with the 2401 retrofit for police and fire of the main building. And it also has implications on the approval of the training facility for the fire district. Once the administrative offices can move, then they can start thinking about completing the upgrades to the training facility. And we're in conversations with them about timing and potential revisions to that. We had Camp Bow Wow, doggy daycare. It's approved and under construction. We have the Neighborhood 5 or Promenade at the Preserve. That's under construction as well. And then, of course, the preserve proper or Faria preserve, depending on how you think about it. And again, that's starting to wind down. And then we have some approved projects that are sort of pending construction that we don't have specific dates on. You're all aware of Aspen Woods Senior Apartments. There's been a lot of activity as of late. We expect permits to move forward very shortly and get this under construction. But I don't have an update as of today, so. No gold shovel yet. The Ttlc Townhome project at 500 Deerwood, we've been working with them on fee estimates. They are in building permit plan check at this point. We're talking with them about CFD and other obligations under their approvals. So we would anticipate that they'll work through the summer to get their project ready for permits. Belmont Village as well. We've had some conversations with them about fees and plan check and code issues that need to be addressed. We would anticipate that they'll file for permits sometime this fall, summer, fall. Likewise with Windflower Townhomes or the Golden Skate site, we've had some early discussions regarding fees and building permit requirements, grading permit requirements, but we don't have a specific timeline as to when they're going to file or pull permits. And then the San Ramon Valley Apartments. This is again the Rome project on the Outpost site. They have been approved. They've gone through plan checks. They're working on financing to move forward. We've been in discussions with them about what they need to actually get forward and get under construction. We don't have a timing of when that will happen. They're dealing with their own budget and expenses related to construction costs and easement issues. And then we have the City Center Hotel. That there is a development agreement vesting this particular approval. It has not moved forward in the last year. It was delayed. We don't have an update on a new schedule for them, but we suspect that it's a case of the economics and uncertainty of travel related to both COVID and then, of course, supply chain and construction costs. But we anticipate that we'll get an update from them in the next month or two in terms of their schedule. And that's it for now. I'm happy to answer any questions about these projects or try to answer questions about these projects. Or if you have questions about anything else, any other projects that we've worked on either in the last year or prior to that.
Well, let me put it, do you have any questions before I open public comment?
Yep.
Good.
Thanks, Lauren. My question is regarding our numbers for the RENA 5111. So how are we doing with all these projects that coming into picture?
Well, it has to do with when they actually get permits issued. And so it's a timing question more than anything else. The BR1A project, that will help toward the next cycle of RENA numbers, whereas Aspenwood would be this cycle. But yeah, it's just a question of timing. But we have this build out of the City Walk Master Plan, the 4,500 units, that's going to be spread over several housing cycles. And so we'll continue to get credit for those as they come online.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is right now we have this 15%, right? That's like so is that going to help us with the numbers to achieve, or do we need to increase that percent, or how we going to get that?
Well, so there's a couple ways that we accommodate this. For example, the 15% is required to be for rental projects at low or very low income. So it helps get those difficult units through the rental process. And then you have other potential projects like Aspenwood that's 100% affordable, or in the case of that Anton development on Morgan's Masonry site, that's 100% affordable. So that's one way that we can kind of jump ahead in terms of making up some of the differences that we have from just the inclusion area of the 15%. But there is a challenge in meeting all those numbers. But to have a project that's 100% at low or very low income rate really helps meet those numbers.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions, we'll open public comment. Do you have any speaker cards?
No speaker card.
Any speakers?
We do have one.
Please bring them in.
Calling user 1.
Hi, can you hear me?
Thank you. Muted. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, compliment to Mr. Barr. I think his department has worked hard and it's reflective in his report. I do have 2 comments though. I know that this year our city had approved a project through the Planning Commission on Sandbox VR, and I ended up spending $2,500 cash to dispute this decision because it was such an anomaly by our commissioners because they're usually meticulous. But for this particular project, they spent less than 15 minutes vetting the project. And most importantly, I was stunned and appalled, speechless, that we actually let this project pass by an old ordinance that was established back in the 1980s for arcades. I would like to ask the city attorney to please do his job and officially come up with city ordinance that will properly vet future businesses and projects like Sandbox VR, so we don't, force our commissioners to have to work on handicapped codes, and thus usually an excellent panel of commissioners look like they are, like they did something wrong. And I certainly don't want to spend another $2,500 cash. And by the way, I look forward to see how you guys record those $2,500 cash in Finance Committee by Mr. Sessions. So my eyes are on you guys. And from there, I want to branch out to a project that is also brand new by the same developer that is upcoming with a pool on top of 6th floor worth of parking lot. Please kindly establish earthquake codes that the planning commissioners and our engineers can properly vet and supervise this project. The last thing you want is for a leaky pool that is going to electrocute everyone because there are charging stations in the parking garage and the leaking water is going to trigger electrocution, and we end up having suits because people are dead. And as well as, I don't know how deep they're going to go down for these type of multi-floor projects. So please properly review your earthquake codes for new buildings that are that tall in our city, which I doubt we currently have proper codes to supervise those. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speaker cards? Seeing none, public comment is closed. The matters before us. I would just say, I don't know how you got through this whole thing without any of us asking about the housing element. How are we doing on that? Are we on target by any chance?
We're slipping slightly, but we'll make it through the end of the year.
Good, thanks. Anyone else? Sabina, we'll start with you. Scott? Mark?
Lauren, I just want to say thank you. That was a very comprehensive report, and just thank you to community development, to the planning staff, to the planning commissioners. It's been a busy year with all the projects and the updates and the amendments and everything else, the general plan update, housing element, all that. Just a tremendous job. I have come up with plans in the past. I've worked with planners. I have approved plans. I know how busy it is to be in the planning business. And I don't know how y'all do it because there's been quite an effort this year. And so my hat's off to you. And I just really appreciate all the hard work and the attention to detail for everybody who's got their hand in the planning process. So thank you.
Wait, Mark, did you just drop a you all on us?
I did. I dropped a y'all.
Okay.
I've been from South Palo Alto. You were from North Palo Alto.
It is a great job. And a lot of people just absolutely gloss over the parentheses about SB 330 projects. And if you haven't received the email that I got, you're going to be getting a lot more parentheses besides 330. Because that signing of those three bills, 8, 9, and 10 are now starting to come back. And it's going to be different out there. I don't envy you guys, and I definitely don't envy our planning commission. And in fact, I think I'll throw them under the bus every time I get the letter. Go ahead, Scott.
I see where Bart got a big pile of money for building low-income housing on their properties.
Yep. Well, they have the lease. Anyway, if there's no further,
I was going to make
Go
a
ahead.
quick comment. Again, just like everybody, want to thank you and also want to thank our planning commissioners. They make our job much easier by doing, a lot of this work, and planning is not easy, and planning it where the city still remains more beautiful than ever and everything gets integrated well. Just want to say thank you for that too.
and with dog parks. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks.
Okay, with no further comments, we're on to the highlight of the evening. That is the city manager comment.
Okay, I'll try and wow you with 3 items. First, we are a go for our move to the new police department, which is next week, correct, Chief? So that's pretty exciting, and I would recommend, again, if you have not been through the PD, I would go before the move happens, because if you want to go afterwards, you're going to see a lot of boxes, and you know how moves go, and it takes a while to settle in. So I'm sure Chief Stevens would be happy to take you on a tour, just to get a hold of him. And I really think you should go. It's beautiful in there. They did a really good job.
Good.
Field trip, you could have a field
Yeah.
trip.
Any of
2, I
those
think.
boxes say Dainty Donuts or?
You got to talk to Chief Stevens about donuts,
Or Paige? No, okay. If further,
What's that? Yes, yeah, Phil's.
if you keep going, you got 2 more.
I do have 2 more, very short. As Lauren alluded to, we did close on Aspen Woods. That was very, very busy day for Debbie. She had to start, and I didn't even realize just how much it takes to close a deal on a commercial real estate
Unbelievable.
project with kind of multiple stakeholders. It's pretty crazy, and Debbie was able to herd the cats, so to speak, and did an excellent job. So we will be breaking ground, I believe, probably in August sometime, is my guess. They're very motivated, or at least Golden Shovel should probably come in August. They're very motivated to get started on that. And so stay tuned for that. You'll get more information. And then we just completed another round of police chief interviews today. We had 3 panels of a community panel interviews, internal staff interviews, and then subject matter expert interviews. So that process is being whittled down. I'll be interviewing finalists next week, early next week. So we're getting very close to a decision on that as well. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the council first? Public comment, anyone wishing to speak? Please bring them in. Take 1 minute, please.
Calling user 1.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson, for calling on me. So for that, I will speak quickly. I only have 1 minute, but I'm very, very grateful for that 1 minute. Chief Stevens, I can't believe you're leaving us. I don't think anybody can possibly replace you. I want to thank you so much for always making yourself available to the community like you are a family. I feel very comfortable in the past to be able to email you, access you, to let you know, what's going on without going to the scary recourses. And because of that, a lot of potentially escalatable conflicts were tamed. So I just really want to acknowledge that, and it's a gift. It's your personality. I don't know of any of the matrix that city manager just mentioned is able to identify someone like you. But if it's possible, please, can you write a book about your policing philosophy, your chief philosophy for future police officers for their benefit? Thank you.
Thank you, caller, and very well said. I think she speaks for all of us. You're the good Stephen. Thank you. No further comments on that. Let's move to public comment is now. If you have not previously spoken under public comment, item 4, please use the raise your hand item feature on Zoom or dial *9. Do we have any cards?
We don't have
Anybody
any cards
hasn't?
on this item.
And anyone else online that, or star nine? Good. Public comment is closed. City council members. Sabina, you want to start us off or should I kick it down to Mark?
Sure. Just the update, I think the last time we met, we had the 4th of July parade and the concert and the run. So that was fun. Along with the mayor, we missed some of the folks, but, and then the concerts in the park. And we've already had 2 since the last council meeting. So they continue to happen. I think we have 3 more left. Join us there. I just really want to thank the Parks Department for doing so much for residents. I see, you guys are there till like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, just cleaning up and making sure, and they're, I don't know, probably in the 8 in the morning and going on pretty much all day. So appreciate all the effort that goes into putting those concert series, which our residents love. Thanks for all the hard work. Just wanted to say that. And then interesting that we approved a doggy hotel, or, as we're talking about dog parks, it'll be interesting to see as things open up, people start traveling, which one gets used more, the park or the dog hotel. So,
The hotel.
yeah.
Scott. I'm sorry, did I cut you? Okay.
Well, I spent last week with 30 Boy Scouts at Boy Scout camps. I had a lot of fun too. We celebrated 4th of July there. I went to the, last night was the Library Foundation meeting, and they continue to do a lot of great things and doing book sales, and they're planning their jazz concerts, and things are moving in the right direction for them. They're doing a great job with that. So
Good.
so I got
Mark?
I just want to echo what Councilmember Zephyr said about the 4th of July activities. I was there for the kickoff for the Run San Ramon, the fastest mile, the 5K and 10K, helped get that started with the mayor, and then handed out some medals. Attended the July 4th concert that evening, and that was fun. Also, presenting some of the challenge coins to our veterans out in the crowd. Great concert. And then also this past Saturday, I attended the USA Women's Intra-Regional Cricket Games. It was a kickoff of a tournament, multi-day tournament over at Windermere Ranch Middle School. Fantastic to actually watch the games. I've seen practice. I've actually never until then attended a full game. So it was a lot of fun. Teams did great, and really appreciated for not just that, but also the run and the concert. Parks and Community Services stepping up to help make that tournament happen, make those events happen as well. Yesterday, I sat in on the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting. I guess the highlight for that for me was the update from East Bay Regional Park District on a lot of the parks and trails and kind of connections and things going on from their perspective, and trailheads that are been approved and getting put into place, et cetera. And then I also yesterday attended the Senior Foundation meeting, and that was interesting. A lot of things coming up for the seniors over at the Alcosta Senior and Community Center. You all should have gotten the Encore newsletter, but there's a lot of information in here. And I would just encourage our residents, our senior residents, to sign up for that newsletter and find out what's going on. They really do have a lot of great things going. And again, Parks and Community Service staff is alive and well and very active in helping make those programs so viable. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Burrows.
Well, looks like I missed the concert because I was on vacation for July 4th, so no issues, but I'm looking forward for our next 3 concerts. Oh, by the way, Lauren, that's excellent presentation. I didn't get a chance to comment on that. Looking at all the projects that you guys are dealing with, now I don't feel bad about my workplace, the projects that I'm dealing with. So thanks for all the great work.
Okay, before I get into it, I just want to say I never cease to impress me how much those coins mean to people. Those commemorative coins go over very well. We need to keep that program going. There's a transit-oriented community policy that is going through, our MPO, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and ABAG that is catching the attention of a lot of people. It's going to change a lot of planning, what we're going to do with parking, what we're going to do with density, what we're going to do with FAR. And it has, it's been postponed or what is it? We moved it out to September to make a decision on it. But I think it's going to be another one of those things that, okay, let's relearn planning. It isn't enough fun right now. The good news is Bay Area Quality Management District has hired Murray Associates. We're going to hopefully have a new APCO, which is basically your city manager or CEO, in place by the end of the year. Valley Link, the train between essentially Lathrop near the Metropolitan Airport in Stockton and Pleasanton, received a lot of money. I mean, in the millions. And give you more details. I don't get crazy about the actual number because, like a lot of the plans, they get changed between then and like our money coming back on that. Anyway, not only did Valley Link get a lot, but it's going towards the hydrogen processing plant, which will be done in Tracy, and at least 3 of your transit operators, Tri-Delta, County Connection, and LAFTA, are going to be looking to go to some hydrogen buses because 3CTA also got a lot of money for hydrogen buses on the renewable energy program the state has set up. And Contra Costa Transportation Authority got an awful lot of money for Innovate 680, which you'll be reporting on probably in the very near future. I can't say enough about Marc Desaulniers on this one. I think we're talking about almost $400 million. Yeah, and that's probably all of these projects in there. Outside of that, I had 2 things, and for the life of me, when you talk a lot, you forget. But one, you do this enough times, and sometimes you just don't seem to get that impressed. But about a week ago, I was about as impressed as I can get. I met an extraordinary person. I was fortunate enough to be invited to meet and listen to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, and I'm really impressed with his talk. I don't know if they have it on a YouTube, but I'd strongly suggest if you get it, listen to some of his ideas. Very progressive man, and he gets it. I mean, we need to focus more on the things that we can do and less about that unite us rather than what divide us. But outside of that, the other thing I can't think of at this time, there's just too many things going on. So we'll cut the report there unless somebody else has something for the. Oh, yes. Anybody wish to speak to our comments?
You do have one hand raised.
Take another minute.
Okay, I want to talk about the July 4th event that I heard. I want to thank Councilmember Zafar for going to the Danville July 4th activity. I saw a very charming photo of you with Supervisor Anderson and other politicians, which made me or compelled me to ask, how come the other council members didn't, show up? I would like to see maybe like a convertible car that is a representative of San Ramon next year with all of you guys in there. You really need to be our example for showing patriotism for our country. And by having our own car, Councilmember Zafar, it will spare you from having, standing next to Congressman Desaulniers. You really don't want to stand next to him. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank Carol Rowley for driving me at the 4th of July parade that apparently I was not as noticeable as you were, but you
need to get out more, Dave.
Public comments closed on this item. We will adjourn to closed session. This is item 14.1. This is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of section 54956.9. I should have that memorized by now, of Government Code of the government code, and the name of the case is City of Long Beach et al. Versus Monsanto Company, United States District Court for the Central District of California. You can read the case number there. 14.2 is a conference with legal counsel about anticipated litigation, paragraph 4 of subdivision D, and that would be, let's see if you've learned anything, 54.956.9 of the government code, and its initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of the subdivision D of section 54.956.9. One potential case. We are closed. No, that was.
Is
Comment
allowed,
on that?
yes.
Go ahead, burn your hand.
We don't have any hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, public comments closed. Thank you, Scott. Uh, I would ask the city attorney to read our results from closed session.
Thank you. On behalf of the mayor, I will report that with all council members present, the city council voted unanimously to opt out of the class action settlement related to the Monsanto company's manufacture and sale of PCBs in the case City of Long Beach v. Monsanto, case number 216 CV-03493-FMO-AS in the U.S. District Court for the Central District, and has instead authorized the city attorney to initiate direct litigation.
Good. We are adjourned to the next regularly scheduled council meeting, which will be held on July